Queen Mary II is the greatest ocean liner of our time, a luxury British-American vessel that serves as the flagship for Cunard Line. A veritable luxury hotel on the water, a symbol of opulence and wealth. But what if she floundered? Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and today I'm asking, what if the Queen Mary II sank? Before we dive into this video, I just want to ask you guys to let me know if you've ever been on a boat. I, for one, love me a good vessel. I think there's pirate blood in me somewhere, I can feel it. The Queen Mary II gets her name from the RMS Queen Mary, a 1936 ocean liner famed for her prestige as well as her role in World War II. Indeed, it is said that Sir Winston Churchill came up with the D-Day plan of attack whilst in the bathtub of the original vessel. Whilst the original RMS Queen Mary is now permanently docked in Long Beach, California, her replacement splits time between transporting passengers across the Atlantic and cruising around the Caribbean. The Queen Mary II is currently the most luxurious ship in the world. With a capacity of 2,691 passengers and 1,292 officers, she's also pretty sizable, although a lot smaller than the Symphony of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean boat that can host nearly 9,000 people. Blimey. The Queen Mary II has 18 decks, 15 restaurants and bars, including a Veuve Clicquot champagne bar, 5 swimming pools, a spa, a theatre, and the largest floating library in the world, and also the only at-sea planetarium. When Queen Mary II was built, she cost a whopping £460 million, which at the time was equivalent to 490 million US dollars. She then received a refurbishment worth £90 million in 2016, so if she was sunk, it would literally be money down the drain. Not only is the Queen Mary II luxurious, she's pretty big too. At 149,215 gross tonnage, she is also 1,131 feet or 345 meters. Just for scale, the Empire State is 443 meters or 1,454 feet. So basically, this is a big boat. It would take a pretty hard knock to sink her, that's for sure. Of course, if the gargantuan Queen Mary II did sink, it would be the biggest peacetime maritime disaster since the sinking of the Titanic. As many of us know, the death toll on that fateful night was unprecedented. 1,503 of 2,224 people aboard died. Thankfully, the horrifying events of April 16, 1912 led to the introduction of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea. There is little to no chance of Queen Mary II running into the same kind of trouble. The only way she could flounder would be as a result of gross negligence or via some kind of torpedo from an act of war or terror. Should the Queen Mary II be sunk, in theory, passengers and crew would have a reasonable shot at survival. These days, there are always enough lifeboats on board for everyone. Also, evacuation drills are well practiced and SOS communications are much quicker. Of course, if the boat was hit badly enough, time may be against the crew when evacuating the boat safely. If we learned anything from the Titanic, no ship is unsinkable. If water started to infiltrate the Queen Mary in a serious enough way, the extra weight would be enough to sink the vessel. The Titanic sank reasonably slowly in 2 hours and 40 minutes, but this was relative to the damage and weight of the boat. The best thing the Queen Mary could hope for if she were to sink would be excess time. Depending on what time of year the Queen Mary II met with bad fortune would depend on how the evacuated passengers fared in the winter months. As we know, in the winter months, the vessel was used for Caribbean cruises and in the summer for transatlantic crossings. For this reason, hypothermia is less likely to be an issue for lifeboat passengers or those unfortunate enough to end up in the sea. That being said, the oceans are wild beasts and any number of things from bad weather to predatory sea life could pose risks. While I imagine a rescue ship would be swifter to respond these days, if a vessel as huge as the Queen Mary sank, it is almost certain that there would be some kind of death toll, especially if the boat was torpedoed. How many died would correlate to the initial damage and how quickly the boat sank. It could range from a few dozen people to several thousand, we just can't know. What we do know is that the sinking of the world's most expensive ship would make for big headlines, perhaps for months to come. If the boat was sunk as a result of any kind of terror charge, you could bet the British and American governments would be in full support of repercussions for those involved. Eventually though, decades into the future, the wounds would begin to heal and the sunken boat would likely be an area of tourist interest, depending on how accessible the wreck site was. And just wait till James Cameron gets the movie rights. Interestingly, the Queen Mary II and the Titanic do share a common ancestor. The Queen Mary II is owned by Cunard Line, which was formed from a merger with the White Star Line, the company behind the Titanic. While we probably don't need to worry about the Queen Mary 2 floundering anytime soon, in 2017 it was reported that the original Queen Mary is in need of urgent repairs to stop her sinking. It is estimated that the 83-year-old vessel is in need of $23 million worth of repairs. If she sank, it truly would be the end of an era. So, that is what we think would happen if the Queen Mary 2 sank. Hopefully it never happens. In our modern day it really shouldn't, but if it did, it would be a disaster of the grandest scale. Do let me know what you think would happen if she sank in the comments section down below. Also be sure to leave a thumbs up button and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with our channel. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, I'll catch you in the next video, but for now, stay curious, stay alert, and never ever stop questioning.